Park City Mountain is one of the largest resorts in the entire United States, with the acquisition of Canyons Village and the addition of the Quicksilver Gondola back around 2015. People flock from all over the world to beautiful Park City to enjoy the ski town and test their skiing abilities on the over 7,000 skiable acres that's available across the mountain. I have spent probably well over 75 to 80% of my total ski days in my lifetime at Park City Mountain, and probably have over 1,000 individual ski days just at Park City. While Park City isn't the most challenging mountain in Utah, I think it does offer some pretty good advanced and expert level terrain for most average level skiers and snowboarders who may found themselves out in the Wasatch this winter. In this video, I'm gonna outline 5 of the best zones, in my opinion, lifts, areas for advanced to expert level riding at Park City Mountain. Before we get into my opinion, I took to Instagram and kind of just left an open question and people responded. So I want to share some of people's responses from Instagram. Dallin Wheatley said Peak 5, 9990, McConkey's Jupiter Super Condor. The young Danny says 1/3 of the way down Shadow Ridge, take a hard left into the trees towards PG. Not exactly sure what that means. Secret Ansman said High Meadow. Dylan Paul said Murdoch's. David Cameron Price, have a feeling Jupe is going to be #1. The Nines is a close second also. Kyle said Peak 5, the Abyss. 9990, Jupiter Trees. Love the Peak 5 terrain and the Hike 2 stuff. Tyler Sawyer said Home Run at 3 p.m. That's actually a pretty funny one. Jupe, McConk's, Peak 5, Dreamcatcher, Black Forest, Jupiter Peak, Jupiter 9990, McConkey's. And Luke Smith said, will this be a video? It will be. In Stoke Squad fashion, I want to throw in a few honorable mention areas. I want to spend too much time on these, but I had 3 zones that I think are worth mentioning: Dreamcatcher, Thanes, and Peak 5. Thanes is really good for bump skiing. They usually have a really big mogul run right underneath the chair. Peak 5 is another one that's kind of close to 9990 and offers just like some really sort of wild tree skiing. There's really no like route, or it's just kind of like explore at your own risk. And Dreamcatcher is great because it just offers some long, steeper terrain to kind of get you acclimated to advanced skiing in Utah and at Park City, while giving you the option to explore things like some tree skiing, some moguls, and because some of this other zones are a little bit more expert level. And so I want to kind of give you a step to get into more of the quote double blacks that Park City offers. So kicking off in the 5th spot, which might be surprising to some, but I'm gonna go with the Pioneer area, the Pioneer chairlift. This is essentially right at the base of McConkey's and Jupiter, and is serviced by a very, very, very slow triple chair. So a little bit more on that later. But the reason why I think Pioneer is honestly a great area is because it has 2 main zones: Blue Slit Bowl and 10th Mountain. 10th Mountain is a pretty cool area that's easily accessible and kind of offers, again, this sort of free-for-all tree area to kind of test your tree skiing abilities, and gives you the ability to kind of explore different zones. Like there's not like necessarily a set run, but the whole area you can kind of dump to the skiers right, you can kind of go right off the front, you can go to skiers left underneath the chair. And it, like on a powder day when other stuff isn't open, this is honestly a really popular area because there's kind of so many options that you can get into. So 10th Mountain is pretty cool for that reason. And then Blue Slit Bowl, I bring this up because this is one of the first double blacks I ever skied when I was a kid, kind of learning and growing as a skier. I think this is a great introduction into double black skiing because it's a nice big bowl, and you can kind of pick, if you want it to be more advanced and extreme, you can kind of push yourself into the trees a little bit more, or if you just want to kind of get a feel for the steepness and the moguls, you can just kind of go right down the middle, and it gives people a safe, in my opinion, introduction to double black skiing without having to feel like they're at the top of the mountain with no other way down. That's why I like the Pioneer area. However, I don't recommend like spending all day on Pioneer because the lift is very, very slow. I think it's literally 15, 16, maybe 17 minutes. So it can kind of be a bummer, but again, I think there's a time and place for the Pioneer area. Anyways, it's a nice little starter zone in my opinion, and you're close to mid-mountain for lunch break, coffee, all that sort of stuff as well. So I think Pioneer is worth checking out some of those areas around if you're looking for an introduction into advanced and expert terrain. Now for number 4, we are going to the complete opposite boundary. If you're looking at the mountain, Pioneer is on the looker's left or skier's right, and Super Condor, which is number 4, is literally all the way on the looker's right or skier's left of the mountain, essentially out of the canyon's village base area. In my opinion, Super Condor is kind of a good step up from Pioneer because it offers a little bit, lower level double black diamonds, also has a ton of single black diamond terrain. It's also really easy and quick to get there from the base lifts. Granted, you can get up off the bottom of Orange Bubble, which can have a lot of people in general, but kind of once you get from Orange Bubble, you're essentially, I think, 2 lifts from Super Condor. And then if you want to kind of get into a little bit more hike to terrain and kind of take that next level, you can also hike right off the top of the lift if it's open to Murdoch Peak and get a little bit more upper bowl skiing into there. However, I personally don't really ever ski Super Condor that much for really like one main reason, and that's because it's east facing, so it gets morning sun right away. It's also lower elevation than the rest of the upper mountain, so the snow consistency and quality just generally tends to not be there, but largely because it's east facing, it gets sun right away in the morning. So if you are gonna ski this area, I recommend it from 9 to 11. And then kind of after that, it's gonna start to get pretty tough to ski, even if it looks good. I think that's one of the things with Super Condors. It might look enticing, sun's out, beautiful snow, but then you get in there and it's like just that sort of melt freeze cycle. And once it starts to heat up and get kind of really mushy, it can be actually pretty challenging to ski. So I typically just don't spend time there because of this reason. If you are gonna ski it, like I said, I recommend it maybe on more of an overcast day, a powder day when it's not gonna get so heat soaked and stuff like that. But if you do decide to do it, it's a great thing to go up first thing in the morning, get warmed up, and then head out to some of the other zones we're gonna talk about. Jumping right back over to near Pioneer, we're gonna just head up a little bit to McConkey's. This is a very fast 6-person chair that's extremely popular on the Park City side, and for pretty good reason. I think this is a natural progression to black diamond terrain. There's a lot of cool options up there. It's easy to get to, and it usually does a pretty good job about opening up during storm days and powder days. And this is definitely one of my most skied zones in my entire lifetime. It's essentially in the same nook as Jupiter, and it also butts right up to Empire at Deer Valley. So it's kind of all the same type of terrain, but it's north facing, so the snow all up here stays really, really well. It's never really sun exposed. It's also pretty hidden from the wind, relatively speaking. So the snow consistency is pretty good. It doesn't mean that it doesn't get very mogly and bumpy and all that sort of stuff when there's not a lot of fresh snow, but you never get really crunchy or mashed potatoes or heavy or that melt freeze cycle I just talked about at Super Condor. So the snow stays really well up at McConkey's. I would say this is really the predecessor before moving up to what Park City has to offer overall, but there's some really fun shots if you know where to look. Some of my favorites are right underneath the chairlift. There's like when you're going up, you'll obviously see McConkey's Bowl, but there's kind of like this tree island like right underneath the lift, and that can get pretty steep in there and just adds an extra challenge of the trees. And earlier in the season, there's a little bit more obstacles and stuff. So typically when I'm waiting for Jupiter to open, I'm spinning a few laps on McConkey's, but with an ear to the ground about when Jupiter's gonna open. That's kind of a whole separate video on how to efficiently work that whole deal. But apart from McConkey's Bowl, the Molly's area in McConkey's is also extremely fun if you like tree skiing. Again, it's kind of one of those free-for-all zones where it's just kind of wherever you want to go. The trees can be pretty tight. They can get pretty much opened up as well. But the point is it's kind of that next level. It's a little bit steeper. The runs are a little bit longer, and you have the 6-pack chair to kind of get people up and back quickly. So, and lastly, if you're feeling up to it from McConkey's, when you get off the lift, you can go right and hike up what's called Pinion Ridge. Ultimately, that would take you up to Jupiter Peak, which is the highest point of Park City Mountain. But what's cool from the McConkey side is you have the ability to drop in as early as you'd like. So again, it's kind of working your way up. One, getting you some hike to terrain introduction, but then also, okay, maybe if Jupiter Peak is too intimidating right from the top, you can kind of work your way into it by jumping off of Pinion Ridge into different zones there. And then it's also, again, like Pioneer, it's right next to Mid-Mountain Lodge for lunch, coffee, bathroom breaks, all that sort of good stuff. So kind of makes it a nice fun pocket to spin. On powder days, it's great, or even not, just with the snow quality staying very nice. It's a good area for, I would say at this point, like expert level skiing. Now for number 2, we're going back over to Canyons Village. Literally, we have gone back and forth, but it just kind of shows that just the options you have at Park City Mountain. We're going to 99.90. I'm sure this is a controversial topic of which is like the number 1 spot. I guess at this point it's between 99 and Jupiter, but I think 99.90 is great. The things I love about 99.90 is that it's a 4-pack chair, high-speed chair. In my opinion, it never really gets busy. Like, I don't know if it's just kind of where it's located, but like you rarely ever see like a line out the corral at 99.90 like you do at some other places. But it offers a tons of terrain. It offers like really long runs, which I think a lot of people enjoy. You could go like right off the lift, 94 turns, and just get a bunch of moguls like all the way down if you want. You can get a little bit more spicy stuff, more underneath the chair. If you're going up the chair, you'll kind of see it. I think it's called like the east face. And it's actually quite steep, like right off the top. There's, I think, it gets into that 40 degree, 41, 2 degree pitch in some areas, which once you start to get there, yeah, you start to feel the gravity a little bit more, you could say. Again, not the most advanced and gnarly stuff out there, but you can find little shots of it, which I think is cool at Park City. So 99.90 can be great for that. And it's almost always the first thing to open up. Like Jupiter, McConkey's, even Pioneer sometimes might be on delay during storms, but 99.90 typically is the first to open. So if you can get up there on a POW day, I think it's great. The thing about 99.90 that makes it so I don't go there more often is a lot of in my opinion, the really great runs at 99.90 don't take you back down to 99.90. You actually have to go back down to the Tombstone area, which is arguably the most crowded area on Park City Mountain because so many lifts kind of congregate here. And if you don't really know where you're going, you kind of just end up here by default. To access the really great skiing on 99.90, in my opinion, which is Charlie Brown, the Magic Chutes, and Red Pine Chutes, you have to go all the way back down, and it makes what I call a long lap. Charlie Brown is, my opinion, is one of the best runs at Park City because of the fall line, the sort of different types of steepness you get, and then it kind of comes into like this cliff zone where you can kind of get a little creative off some cliffs if that's what you want to do. And the snow back there just stays incredible, again, because it's north facing, it stays out of the sun, it's really just doesn't get exposed much. So days after a storm, the snow there is still really soft and super easy to ski. So to access these, it requires another chair to get back to 99. So for me, that's enough to kind of make it so the zone isn't as lappable as I would like. But in terms of terrain and snow and feeling like you're up at 10,000 feet, I think 99.90 is really great if you find yourself on the canyon side for the day. And right next to 99.90 is Peak 5, which is one of the honorable mentions that I talked about earlier. So it gives you the option to do both. And if you have someone who's not as expert level, they can spin laps on Peak 5 and you do 99, and then you can kind of reconvene and then do again. So it creates a lot of good options. I think it's a great zone if you find yourself on the canyon side. Number 1 is no surprise if you are a follower of the channel. It is my most skied area in my entire life. I feel like I could almost ski Jupiter with my eyes closed, quite literally. I don't know if there's an area really at Jupiter that I haven't been in. And the reason why I like it is because of the lappability of it. In my opinion, it's super easy to just go up to Jupiter and you ski like 7, 8, 9, 10 jupes. Like, you're gonna have a great day. And that's why I like it. It's kind of like its own little pocket. You don't really feel like you're at Park City anymore. And it gets the most snow, the best snow on Park City. And you have tons of different options, from kind of open bowls right underneath the chairlift with some cliff hits, to some super tight trees if you want that, to some hike to terrain, to some like narrow chutes, medium-sized chutes, all while basically being able to come back to Jupiter chairlift. So there's not really much that you have to worry about in terms of, I'm gonna get cliffed out, I'm gonna ski off a cliff, I can't get back to the chairlift for the most part. Take this all with as a disclaimer, but it's kind of just like one big playground up there. And over the years of my skiing, that's what's made it really fun for myself. So you have the west face, you have Main Bowl, you have Scott's, and it kind of creates this whole just big bowl that you can ski with little sort of sections amongst them. But perhaps one of my favorite aspects of Jupiter, which is totally unique, is the way you get there via Jupiter access. When Jupiter is under mitigation for avalanche, they close it really at the top of Pioneer Lift, because if you were to take the cat track, you would be in harm's way of where slides could happen. So they close it, and then once they open Jupiter, it creates this race to the lift. So you could be at the rope first, but you still have to go all the way through Jupiter access to get on the chair. So it creates this totally unique race on powder days where the fastest, the more athletic, the more in shape you are, you can get on the chair first. And there's nothing more rewarding than being up there with a group of people and then being one of the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chairs and being the first to drop right down main bowl before it gets skied up. When you get it right, it's super rewarding. So some of the main complaints about this area that I see from people is that the lift is slow. It's a 2-person lift. It probably takes like 8 or 9 minutes, but to me, it's like the perfect amount of time, and it's just kind of adds to the experience up there. And then also some of like the runs, they're only like 700-800 feet of vertical. So you can spin a lot of laps, but the runs aren't necessarily super long. And then lastly, you can hike to Jupiter Peak from the Jupiter chairlift via the west face, which is a pretty easy hike, to be honest. It's not very steep. It maybe takes 20 minutes. And then you're at the highest peak at Park City Mountain. And then I typically end my days by going from Jupiter Peak all the way down to the bottom without stopping. It's, I don't know, almost 3,000 feet of vertical, but just one of those cool experiences where you're at the very top of the mountain and you just ski straight, no lifts required, all the way down to the parking lot. So it's a cool way, after you spun your laps at Jupiter, hike to the peak, and then rip that all the way down to the bottom. And for me, that's why I love Jupiter. Again, you can't really go wrong with any of these zones, but in my opinion, Jupiter Peak is, if you are looking for advanced expert level terrain with kind of no easy way down, Jupiter Peak and Jupiter is the place to be. Now there's obviously a ton of terrain at Park City Mountain, and if you're more of an intermediate skier or an intermediate advanced, there might be better areas for you to go, like Motherlode or King Kong or something like that. But the great part about Park City is just the amount of options that you have. So my recommendation is to explore them all, because what I might like, you might not like, and vice versa. And so if you're here for a few days, take a whole day just to explore the Park City side. Take another day just to explore the canyon side, because the mountain really is that great, and there is that much terrain to offer us as skiers and snowboarders. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of some of the more advanced expert level places at Park City Mountain, and let me know if you would like to see anything more in depth about Park City, because I feel like I really have some good knowledge and insights to share about the mountain as a whole. So thanks for watching, squad. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.